This video was made possible by Good Better Best Tuition Services. Please subscribe for the latest videos. Today we are going to be discussing Law 5 and Law 6 of exponents. Now Law 5 in exponents says that anything to the power naught is equal to 1. In other words, if I have 2 to the power 0, that will give me 1. What happens, however, if I say 2x to the power naught? Can you tell me? The 2 has its own exponent of 1, so that will give us 2 times 1, because it's only the x to the power naught that will be equal to 1, and so our answer will be 2. Let's look at number 3. We have 2x inside the bracket to the power 0. Now we've got to share that 0, so that will give us 2 to the power 0, x to the power 0, and anything to the power 0 is 1. That will give us 1 times 1, which is 1. Now let's look at Law 6 before we look at some more complex examples. We've got a to the power negative n, and how do we write that? In order to get rid of the negative exponent, we need to write it as a fraction, so that will give us 1 over a to the power n. Do you see how the negative falls away when it's written as a fraction? You need to remember that. So let's look at 2 to the power negative 2. What do we need to do in order to make it a positive exponent? We need to write it as a fraction. So that will give us 1 over 2 to the power 2. Do you see how we took that entire term and we wrote it as a denominator? And what is 2 squared? 2 squared is 4, so our answer will be a quarter. Let's look at example number 2. We've got m n p to the power negative 1. M has an exponent of 1. It's invisible, but it's 1. N has an exponent of 1. But P has a negative exponent. And what do we do if it has a negative exponent? If the exponent is negative, we need to take it down and write it as a denominator. However, we see that because m and n is positive, it stays as a numerator. It's only the p that needs to be taken down to the denominator. So let's look at example 3. We have m to the power negative 1 over n to the power negative 4. Now if your exponent is negative, it means it is in the wrong place. You want a positive exponent. So if it's negative as a numerator, we need to write it as a denominator and vice versa. What does this mean? This means that m to the power negative 1 needs to be written as a denominator, and n to the power negative 4 needs to be written as a numerator. So this gives us n to the power 4 over m. What if I were to say 3 over 4 to the power negative 1? When we distribute that negative 1, it would give us 3 to the power negative 1 over 4 to the power negative 1. So you can see that both exponents are negative. And as we did in the previous example, I said to you that if it's negative on top, it needs to be written as a denominator. And if it's negative at the bottom, it needs to be written as a numerator. So what have we done? We've swapped the two around in order to make them positive exponents. Let's look at example 5. You know that when we've raised an exponent to another exponent, what do we need to do? We need to multiply out. And that will give us x to the power negative 9, because negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. But it's a negative exponent, which we don't want. And how do we write it as a positive exponent? By writing it as a denominator. That will give us 1 over x to the power 9. Now let's look at number 6, where we do a combination of all the laws we've learnt thus far. We've got 2a squared b cubed to the power 2. Let's simplify that. So we need to share. That 2 has its own power of 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And 3 times 2 is 6. And there's an invisible 1 as well. 1 times 2 is 2. Another invisible 1. 1 times 2 is also 2. And negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. What have we done? We've simplified the numerator. Now we need to simplify the denominator. The denominator has no brackets, which we need to simplify. So we can go ahead and say that 2 times 12 is 24. A to the power 2 times a to the power 5 is a to the power 7. And b to the power 5 times b to the power 7 is b to the power 12. What we need to do now is we need to simplify that numerator. So we can go ahead and say that 4 times 64 is 256. A to the power 4 plus a to the power 2 will give us a to the power 6. But what happens here? We've got b to the power 6 and b to the power negative 4. The rules don't change. When we are multiplying, we need to add the exponents. And so we can go ahead and say 6 plus negative 4. Now you know that 6 plus negative 4, what do you need to do? You need to multiply in. A positive times a negative is a negative. And so that will give us 6 minus 4, which will be 2. That will give us 256, a to the power 6, b to the power 2, over 24, a to the power 7, b to the power 12. But we need to simplify. So we aren't done yet. Let's continue. The first thing we need to do is simplify 256 over 24. And they both divide by 8, so that gives us 32 over 3. Now we need to simplify a and b, but we are dividing. And when we divide and the bases are the same, what do we do to the exponents? We subtract them. So we've got a, 6 minus 7, and b, 2 minus 12. That gives us a to the power negative 1 and b to the power negative 10. But these exponents are negative, so where are they going to be written? Are they going to be written as a numerator or as a denominator? As a denominator, that's correct, because they are negative exponents and we want positive exponents. That gives us 32 over 3ab to the power 10. Thank you for watching with us. And then if you need tuition in maths, physics, accounting, English or Afrikaans, we are based in Lotus River, Cape Town, and we can assist. Please feel free to contact me on the number on the screen. We hope to see you again soon.